Coffee lovers, good news. It looks like coffee can lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. Hi everybody, Mark Green here, Diabetes Diet Guy, coming from diabetesdietguy.com, where we've got free information to help you get on top of your glucose levels and healthy living goals. Now, we've got some good news for the coffee lovers out there. A new study has been released very recently looking at coffee intake and cardiovascular risk. Now, historically, it would be assumed that coffee, with its caffeine content, which is a stimulant, increases the risk of cardiovascular events because it increases blood pressure, increases the heart rate, and that can't be good if you're prone to cardiovascular disease. But this study has flipped things on its head, and it actually looks like it might reduce the risk. So what happened? Well, this study looked at the UK Biobank data, which consisted of 50,251 participants. This is a big study, guys, so we're talking big numbers, and that's a good thing. And their primary outcomes that they wanted to assess were the incidence of arrhythmias, cardiovascular disease, and mortality, which is bad times. Mortality means dead. That's not good. Now, with any sort of nutritional study, typically they make adjustments to rule out some other factors that might influence the outcomes. Now, the problem with this is that we're not getting a true look at the data. We're having to do some fancy statistics after the fact. So they made adjustments for body mass index, gender, age, lifestyle factors, and exercise was not factored in, which could be a big one because of missing data. The study looked at differing levels of coffee consumption. So they categorized them, for example, between people that took 1 and 2 cups, 2 and 3 cups, 4 and 5 cups, etc. And they also looked at different types. So they had instant coffee, ground coffee, and decaf. One flaw of the study was that although people were likely to jump between each category, in this study they were only able to select one category. So you probably just had to go with the one that you're most likely to drink. Now, what they found, which was rather counterintuitive, was that those people that drank 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day had a significant reduction in their cardiovascular and mortality risk. This risk also applied to people that were drinking decaf coffee. When it came to arrhythmias, there was a significant reduction in arrhythmia incidence for the caffeine drinkers, but not for the decaf drinkers, which again is very counterintuitive to what we would expect. So what's going on? What's the deal with this finding? Well, coffee is a very complex compound. It has over 100 biologically active compounds. And although caffeine does increase blood pressure, it's been shown that the body actually adapts to this quite soon after. And so the effects of caffeine start to become blunted. It's also worth pointing out that people that had existing cardiovascular disease or arrhythmias were excluded from this study. So we're looking at people that then went on to develop these conditions and whether or not there is a reduction between the coffee drinkers and the non-coffee drinkers. Now, there's a few theories as to why this effect might be seen. For example, coffee has antiarrhythmic properties. So there are receptors in your body that when they are inhibited, it actually reduces the likelihood of arrhythmia. And coffee, or caffeine specifically, helps to reduce or inhibit the activity of those receptors. Caffeine also increases the endothelial nitric oxide in your body. Nitric oxide is a dilator, so it expands the blood vessels. It lets blood flow more willingly through the body. So if you have a wider tube for the blood to flow, you have lower blood pressure, and therefore the heart isn't working as hard, and so the chances are of cardiovascular events occurring are much reduced. It also decreases lipogenesis. Lipo refers to lipids, and lipids means fat. So your body's making less fat, which is going to be circulating in the system. And I think there's enough evidence now to show that there is a strong link between the amount of fat and fats in our body and cardiovascular risk factors. So those two elements are caffeine specific. But coffee is also a strong antioxidant, which means it helps to break down something called free radicals in the body. Free radicals damage the body, antioxidants help repair it and put it back together. And so people that have a high intake of antioxidants generally have lower incidence of diseases. Specifically, coffee contains something called polyphenols. Polyphenols are an organic compound which are usually found in plants. Now, of which there are 4. You may have heard of some. One is called phenolic acids, probably not the most common. You may not have heard of that one. However, another one is called flavonoids, quite common and actually exists in a range of foods. There's also still beans, again, not one that's probably particularly well heard of, but the last one some people may have heard of is called lignans. So between the dilation effect of the nitric oxide, the reduced circulating blood fats, and the fact that coffee has antioxidant properties could go some way to explaining why these findings have been found. So actually, when we start looking at the physiology and actually how this might happen, it starts to make sense and it may not be as counterintuitive as we first thought. Now, the good news is this actually stays within the recommended amounts in the UK for coffee or caffeine intake. We would recommend no more than 4 cups of coffee a day, otherwise you're starting to go over your caffeine allowance. So it's not contradicting what we already advise. And there we have it, guys. So who would have thought it? Coffee could be good for your cardiovascular health. So if you're a coffee lover, perhaps actually it's not time to just put down the cup yet. But obviously, as I say, don't overdo anything. It's all about moderation. But on the face of it, looking at this data, actually, coffee may be beneficial. Thanks for watching, guys. We hope you found this video useful. Like and subscribe the video if you did. We find it super helpful, gets us up that YouTube algorithm and gets us in front of more people like yourselves. If you do need an extra helping hand, we offer consultancy services. Head over to diabetesdietguide.com or email me directly on info@diabetesdietguide.com and make an inquiry about how we can help you with your specific diabetes or healthy living goals. Anyway, we'll leave it there and I will see you later.